The human psyche is so composed that most of us, including atheists, at some point of time, ask fundamental questions of life. It may begin with, "Why did this happen to me?" Then it goes on to, "Is there God? Who am I? What is the goal of human life? What happens when one dies? Why was the world created? By whom? How?" And so on.
Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Amy, and if you're new here, then please like and subscribe to my channel. So in the Ketu Dasha, which is the South Node astrological Dasha, or Mahadasha, you will at some point or the other experience a sense of not knowing what to do or what you're craving. That's when I found through my personal experience that what you actually need is some guidance. All of the guidance that the world will give you at this point will feel like it's falling short. All the mainstream ideas about what you should be doing and even all the pursuits that should be meaningful don't feel meaningful or simply interesting to you during this dasha. When I went through that, it took me some time to actually find really good sources of information and education for how I want to live my life. That's why today I wanted to share with you some amazing books and tools that I discovered during the first half of my Ketu Dasha. And I feel like without these books, I would have been completely lost. And every time I started to feel like I was lost, I looked back to these books and they helped me navigate my challenges or just be more at peace with the challenges that I was facing. If I had not found these books, I think I would have been very much more lost and would have been filled with a feeling of emptiness, which these books filled with more wisdom, with more guidance, support, and helped me take a larger view of life instead of the nitty-gritty that I was stuck in. So when I read these books, they pretty much show me the way, a higher knowledge that don't just help me survive, but they actually help me discover the purpose of Ketu Dasha. So my list of books are pretty short. I've got 5 books for you today because I know that everyone doesn't enjoy reading, but also I think during this phase of your life you will want to go more inward and focus more on what you are what you're thinking about, what you're doing day to day. And I think during this time, having some alone time is really necessary. So you can fill this time up with some really great books. Around the time when I would say that like my dasha started to get a little bit more intense, I started to crave something that helped me sort of deal with the suffering and the pain of the dasha. And that's when I found this book. It's written by a Vietnamese Buddhist monk, I believe, and I'm gonna butcher his name, Thich Nhat Hanh, and it's pretty much like endorsed by the Dalai Lama, so you know it's good. So yeah, it's called No Mud, No Lotus, and I really love the cover. It says, "The Art of Transforming Suffering." So I think this is like a really quick book. It doesn't take that long to read it. It's about 115 pages or so, and it's basically talking about like how to relax, because I think one of the things that's difficult about this particular period of your life, that what's difficult about it is that your mind is just rushing, especially if you have a Ketu in Virgo, which is a South Node in Virgo, then this is a really good book for that, because it will essentially just tell you how to approach life and how to meditate, a lot of other things that I think is really important during the Ketu Dasha. Once I got that book, I started to go through my mom's, bookshelf, because she's been studying Vedanta, which is the science of life. If you haven't heard of Vedanta, I really recommend that you look it up on YouTube. It's really great. But essentially, Vedanta is like a philosophy for understanding and living life. And this book, which is called Atmabodha, is essentially like answering, it's showing all the questions and answers to the most basic principles of life, which can help you sort of assess, whether or not the things that you're focusing on are actually worth focusing on, and lots of really amazing and beautiful insights. Essentially, so I'll read you a little bit from the back. It says, the human psyche is so composed that most of us, including atheists, at some point of time ask fundamental questions of life. It may begin with, why did this happen to me? Then it goes on to, is there a God? Who am I? What is the goal of human life? What happens when one dies? Why was the world created? By whom? Etc. So these are the questions that are probably racing through your mind if you're going through the Ketu Dasha, which is why I really recommend this book. So yeah, check it out. Just another up close. I don't know if you can find it easily online, but if I can, I'll put a link to all of these books on Amazon so that you can find them easily. So right after I read this book, I also read a follow-up book by Adi Sankaracharya, and this one is called Atmabodha. And just as the Atmabodha, this one is a really great book as well, written by Swami Chinmayananda. And this one's also like a very short book. I think, let's see, it's only 161 pages. And this one is more about like the science of life itself. There's a lot of information about the subtle concepts of Vedanta. And I just really loved reading this book as well. And I took like a lot of notes as well in here. It's all about self-knowledge and what is the self, what is the intellect, what is our experience, our capacity to experience, all of that kind of stuff. And then I started to read one of the most amazing books. It's called, you guessed it, The Autobiography of a Yogi. And this one is by Paramahansa Yogananda. And this was actually a book that I gifted to my mom earlier last year, not knowing that I would end up being the one to actually read through it first. So, it was named as one of the top 100 spiritual books of the century. So I really, really recommend this book. It's quite a long book, as you can see. I'm like right through the middle of it. And this one's a bit long, like this one is around 500 pages. So if you're not a fast reader, then this might take you a bit of time. But one of the things that I think is really beautiful about this book is that you sort of start to take advantage of your South Node Ketu Dasha in the fact that you start to explore these imaginative worlds where things that are not necessarily very practical or common are being talked about. So, in this book, you sort of look outside the ordinary world into like spirituality. You learn about Yogananda's life right from the beginning. And believe it or not, there's been so many times that I've actually laughed out loud while reading this book because it's just so funny and you wouldn't expect it. So I think I can totally get lost in this book. It's so exceptional in that way. So I really recommend this one. And one of the things that's really nice is you get to learn a lot about his personal conversations with people, and you get to know his entire lineage in terms of his spirituality. So his master, like his Guruji's Guruji, which is, if you're not familiar with the word Guruji, it just means like a teacher. So yeah, I can't wait to continue reading this book and get through the rest of it. It's definitely one that I think it's unexpected how much you end up liking it. One of the other things I want to talk about is around the start of my Ketu South Node Dasha, I actually started to get really curious and wanted to learn more about astrology. So I reached out to one of the astrologers that I was in touch with at that time. His name is Prakash Sundra. He's actually got a YouTube channel where he does like videos on astrology, and he's a really good astrologer. And I told him that I really want to learn more about astrology, and he told me to read this book. This one is like a very quick introduction to everything that you might want to know when you're first starting to read about astrology. It talks about, all the nakshatras, which are the constellation, talks about the houses, the signs, and just a lot of like, how do you assess a birth chart? So if you're interested in that, I think this might interest you. But I actually didn't end up spending too much time there because I wanted to get really deep into the study of this. So I actually got this book right here, which is called Beneath the Vedic Sky. And this one is like a really robust book. It's pretty big. And this is the one that I couldn't find in Canada, and I had to get it from India, and I had to get a second hand. I think, I don't know if it came from India, but I know that I had to get a second hand book of this because I don't know if it's in publication. But definitely you can try to look for it. I think I paid quite a lot. I can't remember now, but upwards of $50 for sure. And the reason I really love this book is because it's just got like an immense amount of information, like everything that you would want to know about astrology in here is explained so well. Once I picked up this book, I could not put it down, and I read it like every single day for about like, I don't know, a month or something. And so this was a really exceptional book. And the last thing I want to talk about is, please, during your Ketu Dasha, I highly recommend that you keep a journal. So I bought myself a book that I could just write in, and I'm telling you, I went through this book so fast, it's not even funny. Like, I got this really beautiful book from, I think it was Indigo in Toronto, and I love the quote that's on the front of it. I don't know if you can see it, but it basically says, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step. And I think that's what the Ketu Dasha really feels like. It feels like you're going far somewhere with your mind, where you feel restless, like you don't want to be where you are. And sometimes that journey and the destination is completely unclear. But really, if you look at it as simply the first step or one step at a time, I think it can reduce the anxiety that you can feel during this Mahadasha. And looking back, like one of the first things that I wrote in this book had more to do with sort of me looking at my inner self and just trying to assess who I am, what do I love, all that kind of stuff. And, while I'm going through these books right here and I'm learning more about like the soul and the self on a spiritual level, I was also trying to assess like practically, what is it that I want from life? So a lot of the things that I wrote in this book were really interesting. So one of the first things I wrote in here was like finding purpose starter questions. So I wrote down like, when do you feel most in the flow? That is a question that I prompted myself with, and then I wrote down all the answers that came to me. Especially if I'm meditating and I get a thought, then I would write it down. Another one is like, what are your strengths? When do you feel like you're a rock star? If money wasn't an issue, how would you spend your time? Another one is, what would you regret never experiencing in your life? So if something like this interests you, then let me know. I'll make a video especially on this subject to help you sort of navigate your South Node Ketu Dasha. If you made it to the end of this video, I really appreciate you sticking around. Thank you so much for listening. Please give this video a like. I'm new to YouTube, so I'm pretty sure that any time you like, subscribe, and comment on my videos, it makes a huge difference because my video will get picked up by YouTube's algorithm, and it will share it to more people who are starting their Ketu Dasha and really need these kinds of resources. Okay, so thank you so much. I'll see you in my next video. Bye.